Victor and Christine, our first Coherence conversation.
Thank you for booking a time. It feels like it's about time. Like we've talked about lots of different things in other places.
Yeah, it's nice. It's like there's different paths into collaboration. Sometimes you start talking with the person directly, and sometimes we met each other in the Coherence co-steward team. Uh, how did you end up in Coherence? I don't remember.
Yeah, it was because of Joshua. So Caesar. Yeah, we had met him a couple of times through Holistic Systems and Circletrust, and he liked what we were doing. I think he just really wanted to bring us in and have that conversation. So I'm
Amazing. And
actually
what are you doing?
well, Circletrust is a community economies tool set. Um,
Community economy toolset. Okay.
yeah, yeah. But there's quite a bit to it, including legal and financial pieces and like based on trusts, legal trusts that one of the founders has developed. He's into this idea of earth law. Have you heard of that group?
I know about nature's rights movement, but I haven't heard of Earth law specifically.
Yeah, I haven't delved into it personally, but this is his source of inspiration, or one of them. And I might invite him to come and have a chat with Coherence too, so we'll get more people. Yeah.
So, community economy toolset, tell me more, right? How many people do you have using it, or what are the elements of it?
Yeah, so we have developed this combination of tools that include things like um, crowdfunding for regenerative projects with just some basic tools like maps and project organization and like that funding piece, like how to receive funds and organize them, like for small scale projects.
Hmm.
And then we have like this set of value exchange features that are more based on like mutual aid or commitment pooling. If you've heard of that from Will Ruddick and grassroots economics.
I might have,
Okay.
I mean, sounds, no, actually, no, I don't know what it is. I might have heard of it, but I
Hmm.
don't know, but it
Yeah.
sounds, tell me.
Well, yeah. So from what I can gather, it's like they're testing it out. He's living in Africa with in Kenya, and it's a traditional practice over there. I think it's called Mawera or something, Mawera, and it's essentially like a village commitment pool where like people make that commitment to support each other through like harvests or building structures or doing other things that need to be done in the village. And there's this mechanism that he believes helps to generate and support that. And
So is it
yeah,
a commitment of labor or money or
it's generally time and labor. Yeah,
nice?
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we forget this. There is so much of what our image of traditional agricultural society is. So first of all, I really like to look at hunter-gatherers because I think
Mm,
if you want to know what human beings evolved for, that was it, not agriculture. A lot of people for the default human, right? What are human ideal human society? They look agrarian societies, but that's not what we evolved for. But even there, so many of our ideas of what agrarian society looks like are post commons enclosure and are actually quite modern because yeah, I mean in the old days people did the fields together
mm,
and just at harvest season or planting season you went from house to house, but the whole village worked together because it'd be boring and hard work otherwise. I really I like reading early anthropology books, and there's a beautiful book I read from Japan's first anthropologist. It's like
Wow.
100 years we've changed. Like anthropology wasn't a thing, whatever. Everybody thought he was crazy, but he went from village to village collecting old people's stories and
Nice.
asking them how life was when they were young. So this is now stories of the 19th century, mid 19th century. And yeah, it was exactly that. People were like, we would all go into the fields and sing. And actually, it's funny because culture norms, women told dirty jokes, and they always had the most dirty jokes. And it was a social thing. People laughed, people had fun together. Uh, so I love that. And you say it's called commons pooling,
This one is called commitment pooling.
commitment
Yeah.
pooling. And have you managed to get it deployed or have you used it yourself?
Yeah, we're trialing a whole bunch of different tools in holistic systems cooperative, including a form of commitment pooling. But there it's tricky because we're taking that concept from Kenya and then trying to apply it for digital nomads. And so we had Will Ruddick actually do a presentation the other day for holistic systems, and he was like putting forward a lot of questions like, how can this work for people who aren't committed to a place together? Like, can they commit? I mean, we started asking questions like, what can they commit to if they're not in a location? And
So, I
so,
mean, I can
yeah,
tell you, I have the answer to that.
yeah. Let's chat
So
about that.
it's exactly what I've been thinking and dreaming for a while, and it's actually very much what Alex is trying to build. So
Okay.
kind of a cooperative or a collaborative of creatives searching, working together, searching for work together. So at a simple level, just get everybody to commit, I don't know, 1 hour or 2 hours a week. And let's say this week or this month, we work on your professional portfolio and everybody pitches in, somebody does design, somebody da. And then the month after, we can work on the next person's, right? And imagine then you suddenly, instead of being alone, and such a pain in the ass, especially as an independent. So actually, independent and digital nomads needed a lot because they really crave
Yeah.
some kind of an ongoing support structure.
Mm. Yeah,
And
that
since
sounds
our work
exactly
is
like
so
what
online, yeah,
is, yeah,
sorry.
Rob, I'll have to match Alex and Rob together because Rob is in Coherence, but just as a project. And he has created this platform that does this as well. So he
Yeah.
has created this specifically for independent contractors and freelancers, and like just as she was talking about.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there is definitely,
Hmm.
and this is one of my general big thesis in life is that we need more and better, more variety and better and different ways of groups of belonging. Because if you look at it, right, we went from the tribe to the village to maybe your neighborhood or your church, right? That was a big group of belonging, da. And now we've gotten rid of all of those. We're not even tied to a place, right? Your job is your whatever the contract of the month is, the employment system. And then we went to the employment system, right? Where your belonging was with your employer. And now we've chucked all of that out.
Hmm.
Where do we need to, I'm not saying we should go back, right? But we need to go forward. And that for me definitely means recreating new different types of groups of belonging, which makes sense in our times.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's like a very exploratory space for online communities. Some of them do quite well, and some sort of are very specific. So you just seem to jump in and discuss a certain area of life and then jump out again. And then so you can have multiple communities. I think that's my experience. I started doing a lot of online community participation and organization since about 2014. I started doing like these international women's group type things that I was in, and that it attracted people from all around the world, and it was a crazy experiment, really. Like you just see people wanting to gather, but then just trying to find reasons or things that are resonant. But it was pretty chaotic, I would have to say. Yeah.
It's interesting. I think it was around then that I did my first group as well online. It was Teal for Startups. I
Hmm.
had, because that's when did you come across the Reinventing Organizations book?
Not that one, no, but I've heard of teal, at least.
Well, Reinventing Organizations book is the one that the whole teal organizations idea
Hmm. Oh.
was published, right? I mean, I think applied specifically and to examples of organizational context that was the book. So a lot of us were really excited, and I did my first group online. We had, because I was like, Teal, it's easier to do with new companies, Teal for startups. And we gathered like 120, 150 people. We set up working groups, this and that. Nothing came out of it on our work stream,
Oh.
but the relationships that were made, I I am still, I mean, I'm still connected with many of the people. They were
Hmm.
for life. And even though we didn't publish any white paper or whatever, a bunch of the people who met through the thing did write two books together already.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So that's also actually kind of it's a part of my
Hmm.
input of learnings for coherence, right? That getting people together and getting them to do something is really hard work, and actually just getting them to know about each other, talk and build relationships is enough. And especially now with AI actually doing something, all those conversations, I'm really excited about that.
Mm, for sure. Yeah, actually, Joshua and I were discussing about like running our documents through Claude or something like that. Like say like his white paper and our like some of our org documents and putting that somewhere. Has anything like that been discussed generally for like cross project synthesis?
So, I mean, this is why I'm running Coherence to shake the universe and find out what the hell everybody is doing. It's a fishing net to find out all of these things. I mean,
Yeah.
Hive is supposed to do that.
Okay.
So I know at the edges, I hear about people working on this different parts of this stuff, but I haven't, I don't know concretely who's doing what. That's why we're organizing Coherence, so we can organize all of this stuff.
Mm.
I was thinking with Coherence, I mean, yeah, let's see how our AI flow goes. My hope, so my intention is, I don't know, did you get a chance to look at that thing I wrote about the why Coherence is an event, not a platform?
I did. Yeah. And I kind of agree with you about that with when I heard that.
So I mentioned that because I'm hoping that we will be an onboarding route for different of these collective intelligence platforms. So,
Mm. Right. Yeah.
and I am I am really excited, and I think that actually this will be what accelerates the movement towards regeneration. Because if we can do collective intelligence at scale, and we're all open and sharing in a way that corporates never can be,
Yeah.
then we can really accelerate and become much, much more effective than the dominant paradigms,
Yeah. I love
the
that.
legacy systems.
Hmm. Yeah, I know a couple of guys who are just in the initial stages of starting up a little game studio. For like at the moment they're looking at a project with a disaster response org in North Carolina, following Hurricane Helene. But there's like goals of how to bring that gamified element into other types of like bioregional mapping and um, engagement, which I'm finding very interesting talking with them, and maybe I'm going to start getting more involved with that too. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's super interesting because I think a lot about user interfaces and user experience. And yeah, I think only games have a clue,
Mm.
right? What do we aspire to in business or other software? Like nice usability. I'm like, that's such a low bar that I don't hate the
Yeah,
software.
it
Like
doesn't
what
piss me
other
off.
product would aspire to? We are at the level that our customers don't hate using our product, right? Like no other business, you know,
Yeah.
our food is bland and inoffensive and nobody will hate it, right? I'm like, really? You're going to run a business that way? No, why
Yeah,
can't we aspire to joy and happiness and like moments of
mm,
serenity and people come back to my software because it gives them so much pleasure, right? Like
yeah, yeah.
become it's a very, very low bar of actual even the highest, right? Like
Mm,
but games, right? Games are all designed about engaging. Games really think, and this is what I've been thinking a lot, right? I'm thinking about this. How do we get these tools into the hands of the first 1 billion users?
mm,
Just like, I mean, that's modest. That's not even 1/7. It's 1/8 of the human population, right? That's like not a lot. Uh, but clearly it's a big number.
yeah.
And I'm not proposing this out of some kind of megalomaniacal glee, more out of utter frustration of decades of
Mm,
hearing all of these starry-eyed technologies telling us how wonderful it's going to be, and then putting no thought whatsoever into like what problems are they solving, how to get this into the hands of real people, etc., etc. So out of desperation, frustration, it's like nobody else is going to do it. Okay, I have to put this conversation out into the world. And I think, of course, solving problems that people actually have, yes, but then really this onboarding journey,
mm,
right? And
yeah.
people do not think like, and like it's getting to the point where if I hear one more person tell me the world is going to be so perfect when everybody uses my platform, I'm just going to punch them. Because after being told this for 20, 30 years or something, I'm like, oh, it doesn't like
Mm,
there's, I
yeah.
always, I don't know if you ever saw this little cartoon. There's two scientists standing behind next to a whiteboard, and there's on the one side, there's all of these equations, and on the other side, there's all of these equations, and in the center is a poof, and it says, and then a miracle happens. And the one guy says to the other, I think you're going to have to be a bit more specific in the step in the middle here.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I feel a lot like that with this alternative, all of this alternative world of like, here we
Mm.
have my prototype with me and five of my friends, and here all of humanity is using it, and there is that, and the miracle happens. So,
Yeah, right. So this is your inspiration for Coherence.
so this my inspiration for coherence. The inspiration is building collective intelligence. I think I did my own coherence last year.
Mm,
So I moved back to Europe. I lived in Japan. I moved back to Europe 10 years ago. And so didn't have like a really strong network or ecosystem of knowing people, etc. And I really wanted to get interesting people and to get the gathering out into the world. So I just went click, 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 click on LinkedIn, added 2,000 or 3,000 people over the last year or two. And
Mm.
last year I had like 200 or 300 conversations like
Mm.
this with all kinds of people. And it was mind-blowingly amazing. It was
Yeah.
like really conversation after conversation. It was so inspiring. And it was really people at the whole spectrum, from university students, second year, trying to figure shit out. What the hell is this world? What am I doing? All the way to full on elder, been in this space for 40 years, sitting on 20 committees, advising the UN, blah, blah, blah. Like really the whole spectrum. I even talked to Bill
Mm.
Reed from Regenesis. Uh, and yet somehow there was this underlying air. There was the zeitgeist of the conversation was the same somehow. Of course, it's self-selection, the people that I talked to, and so on and so forth. But there was this underlying flavor to it of we need to do something. I believe we can do better, and I want to contribute to it.
Mm.
And these conversations were so amazing, and my only regret is that I didn't record them.
What? I was about to ask you that if you did a synthesis on
No, I didn't record that.
them.
That's why when I
Oh.
entered this year, I was like, I had so many amazing conversations and I didn't record them. So I started recording them this year. And, I have
Yeah.
Wasei, admin guy,
Mhm.
helping posting it. And then I was like, this is just good. So there was that. Then there is the inspiration of, for the gathering, we did kind of bunch of different conversations like this with the people that were coming in, da da da. Also, as a physical event organizer and talking and attending many other physical events, I can see that nobody has an idea of how to use online before, after a physical event to
Mhm.
generate pre-engagement, to generate follow-on collaboration. Just nobody has a clue. In general,
Mhm.
I haven't really seen any inspiring online event formats.
Yeah. I've tried a few. I've tried many, but
I've tried many.
yeah.
I have some good workshop formats. I can do really very powerful workshop for 5, 10, maybe 15 people even around the thing. But
Mhm.
conference like for large groups of people, the breakout room is what you get.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm doing this thing. It's been really amazing for me. This is worthwhile. I should be publishing this. But then it's not me, it's just people in this space with a similar inspiration
Hmm.
talking together. So I was like, let's see if we can scale this.
Yeah. No, I honestly, I love it. I think something happens in conversations that doesn't happen when you're just watching someone or when you're just listening and a participant, like in the background. Um, and yeah, I'll just throw in there that my postgraduate studies was in oral histories. So I have a
Ah,
love for that deep listening with people. Mm.
amazing. Tell me
Yeah.
more.
Oh, so I studied in Melbourne, down in south of Australia, and I started to look at embodied practices of memory making, which I found quite interesting.
I understand each of those words. I don't know what it means together.
Yeah, so how do we create memory that is like that we create enough of a groove that it's there, like it becomes cultural in a way. Um, and sometimes it's about just the retelling of the story over and over, but it's usually more than that. It's more about what it does to your memory system in a way, like how you remember it and like what is significant about it that you remember. And so I found a lot of inspiration from Indigenous Australians because they have like one of the oldest oral traditions still intact in some places, and their storytelling skills are beyond like what most cultures can convey, I believe, from what I've experienced anyway. It's
Mm.
just like outside of like logic and rationality and space and time even. Yeah. So
But
I liked a lot.
I imagine that nevertheless they still encode deep cultural truths,
Oh yeah.
right? Because those
Yeah.
stories that survive, they're metaphysical and colorful and crazy in order to be rememberable and to be good stories. But the message that they're conveying is usually very grounded and very important, and one that is important to preserve over millennia, right? Uh,
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, like there's stories around like the water holes and around migration patterns and all of that. But just in hearing you saying that, it makes me think that there's only like there's only this much that we need of our brain to like remember these like core details, and then there's so much of our brains that just love like this whole like mystical expanded sensory moment to moment experience, and somehow that also is involved in these stories as well.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So what was you said you did research on it? What was your concrete research?
So it was in that embodied practices of memory making, and so there's like some symbol creation as well that is useful for that kind of tracking too. So different types of symbology comes into it. There's also some, I found it really interesting, like symbols that show you like direction as well, like not just direction in the landscape like a map, but sort of like movement, like physical movement. Um, and so like the expression of the body and the connection with the story, traditions, and just looking at all of those pieces in detail was a lot of what I did. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean this is and it's interesting because we think of ourselves as a written word culture, right? But in
Mm.
actual fact, when you look at organizations, most of what matters lives in the stories and in the culture and in people's brains, right?
I've heard you
And
say that. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
even when you write down rule books or whatever, they're just the tip of the iceberg. The actual what the nuances of what it means in practice and day-to-day life are nuanced and they live in people's heads. That's
Mm.
why I think also, I mean, I'm just starting on the AI journey, but it's clear that what we feed it is how it understands the world. And we need to feed it, if we want it to see the world like we do, we need to feed it a much more deeper and nuanced view than exists in our written materials. And I guess they're training and sucking up all of YouTube so that oral stuff is going in. But more
Mm.
and more, I think it will be about creating intentional AIs, so ones that have particular views and help us look at the world in particular ways.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of potential there for creativity and discovery. And I was speaking with the guys from Hive the other day, because we were interested in how Hive could connect with Circletrust and sort of amplify all of the possibilities. Um, so yeah, I was speaking with them about how I think there's a scope for a lot of a lot more engagement that is like about data creation, not just data harvesting and analysis. So like there's ways that we're actively curating and creating it, which is not just content creation, but it's about the intelligence of like what the data does as well. Like that could be more refined and designed. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, so that's exactly, you described coherence, right? And that's why, so I mean, I guess coherence has three legs, right? One is the benefit, the experience of the just the people, two people having conversation then and there. The second one is sharing that conversation and some other people that will see it. And I mean, right now, it's not, I'm, we don't even need huge numbers of people watching for it to be valuable, right? Even if two or three other people watch our conversation here and decide, oh, I should connect with Christine or I should connect with Victor about this, then this already has doubled or tripled the value of this conversation versus just the two of us talking,
Right. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I posted one conversation from my personal conversations recently with a amazing young change maker in the Philippines. She wants to do a incubator accelerator for regenerative companies incorporating and based on the indigenous knowledge. And I we posted it and she said like, yeah, I already have 10 conversations out of it, reaching out people who are interested, who
Yeah.
want to talk to me about it. And that's enough, right? Like she doesn't need 1,000 contacts, right? That would be unprocessable. So this kind of conversational content, I think at the start, it doesn't need to have massive viewership in order to be valuable. Even if a few people, because the goal is not spreading ideas, the goal is finding connections for doing stuff together. And you don't need a
Yeah.
thousand collaborators. You need three or four good ones.
Yeah. Usually. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so there is the that benefit, the multiplication benefit, and then the collective intelligence benefit.
Yeah, I'm interested to see like how far you want to go with exploring the gamification idea, like the games concept.
So, I mean, I am really thinking a lot in terms of the onboarding process and creating a joyful and enjoyable onboarding process.
Mm,
Uh, I I've I've never actually intentionally used it. I studied the Octalysis framework and stuff like this. Uh, I'm much more focused on how to create things which give people good intrinsic motivation, and gamification tends to go for extrinsic motivation. But
mm,
yeah, when we definitely, I think the focus of coherence really is about the taking people on the journey. So in that sense, creating an experience which takes them on a great journey and using whatever techniques we can from games and gamification. I think a key, just even simply put, right? Games lay out complexity and guide you through it step by step, right?
yeah.
Not like here's the 1,000 different features you need to learn. No, here's one thing. Do this one thing.
Mm,
Enjoy it.
mhm,
Okay, good, success. So
yeah.
laying out the coherence journey that way as well, and also being patient with people.
Mm.
So I don't know, does that answer your question?
Yeah, like I guess so. And it could be the sense of progression that a game creates as well, that you're moving through an experience. Even if you're crafting it for yourself, you've still got a sense of movement. Because I think with like online spaces, you can tend to feel like a consumer or like you get like mass input, sensory input, but then what do you do with it? Like, I guess if you're taking it away to work on a project, well, that's fine, but there could be so many other things that are sparking in people while they're having this experience and making these connections. it's not just always going to be project based.
Tell me more.
Well, yeah, a couple of us are looking at just ideas around personal development. So like, um, I guess I can speak about Ben's project. He's looking to reach people in community or like in average everyday cultures, like say like American suburbs, right? Using this gamified experience, and looking at how people progress from sitting on the couch watching TV to maybe showing up at the park and, you know, hanging out there a little bit more, or going to the farmers market, or then maybe like eventually starting to be curious about civic um, organizations, or then maybe wondering about the meaning of life and starting to go into those types of inquiry. So what is like, how do people move through those states? Like, particularly because a lot of us in this culture have been through very interesting journeys to get to this point where we're at, um, to be able to be more creative and more active. So that, to me, that's like a starting point of looking at that as well. Like, what was those change moments and those catalyst kind of experiences for these people who have made a lot of progress in their life. Mm.
Yeah, I would love to have a conversation with them and learn how they're talking. We're about to run out of time,
Yeah.
but I'd love to have a conversation with them. And for me, like the tagline is connect for action. And action
Mm.
could be anything, right? It could be just we have a conversation and I support you because you're having a tough time in life, or I give you
Yeah.
feedback on something. But just like anything that doesn't, I think that's more engaging than we're going to watch television together, you know?
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
even going together for a walk in the park, maybe we take some garbage bags and pick up some garbage whilst we're at it. Uh,
Yeah.
that's amazing. I've enjoyed this conversation,
Yeah, me
and
too.
yeah, I look forward to as we spin up. So the other narrative, two narratives that we haven't talked about that I'm trying to bring forth into the world is one, this conversation around regenerative society, regenerative economy, OS. What
Hmm.
is the combination of softwares and systems, and how should they interoperate? Because my background is as a technologist, and I'm frustrated
Mm.
everybody's building their own little platform, whilst what we actually need is a bunch of protocols and things interoperating. So
Yeah.
that's the idea. And then the other one is the Forge. So a venture family creating a family of organizations that we can fundraise together for, and also organizations that are interested in engaging with this storyline of how do we take this stuff into, how do we get this stuff into 1 billion user smartphones.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
so nice.
Well, I think there's probably more that I could talk about on all those three. So in the future.
In the future.
All right.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much.
That's it. Okay.
Next time.
See you Thursday.